Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. Today we're talking about Snake Eye. Now I haven't actually done a video on Snake Eye for Master Duel, and the main reason for this is because I feel like everyone else has done a video on this. However, I decided I would test Lullaby of Obedience in Snake Eye. Now, if you don't know what Lullaby of Obedience is, it is a tech card that Pack kind of utilized in the Tier 0 format that is that is the TCG right now with Fire King and Fire King Snake Eye with their build in the Team YCS. They were all playing 3 copies of Lullaby of Obedience. Real quick, what it does, you pay 2,000 life points, declare a monster card name. Your opponent looks at their deck, reveals one of the declared monster's name, if there is any, and chooses one of these effects to apply. The declared monster is added to the hand of the player who activated this card, or the player who activated this card special summons the declared monster to their field in attack position, ignoring its summoning conditions. So, 2 things. 1, this either adds you a card to your hand, or 2, it special summons a monster to your field. Both of which, good effects. You just have to make sure that you call the right card. Now, what makes this so useful is the fact that you can call Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring and still get advantage off of this. Because here's the thing, if I were just to call Snake Eye Ash or Diabell Star, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't be all that useful because there are other decks that can be played, and honestly, there are a lot of other decks that people are currently playing and will continue to play. So because of that, just calling these staple cards aren't really that good of an idea. But because Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring also works as an extender and as a just great card to put onto your board from Lullaby of Obedience, it actually ends up being pretty useful. Right? So oftentimes what I would do is if I didn't know what my opponent was playing, which was fairly likely, I would go, oh, Lullaby of Obedience, call Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Now this does one of 2 things. 1, it either puts an Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring onto your field. Great. Or 2, it puts an Ash in your hand, which is also pretty good, right? But putting it onto the field gives you the ability to basically normal summon and then immediately go into Hita with anything. Right? If you normal summon a Snake Eye Ash, that's great. If you special summon a Diabell Star by pitching a card from your hand, that's great. If you get another guy onto your field, you're off to the races. Because Hita then gives you access to the Ash Blossom that is currently in your opponent's graveyard because it's their Ash Blossom. So by linking off the Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, you can then special summon Hita to then bring back the Ash Blossom to go immediately into Promethean Princess, which is already fantastic, especially if you have a weaker hand, right? For example, like 5 hand traps and a Lullaby. That still basically gets you at least into Promethean Princess, into Amplo Whale, and then, 3 hand traps, right? Because you'd have to normal summon one of the hand traps. So it's still fairly decent. Yeah, all in all, it's just like a great card. It also, again, if your opponent is on something that you know that they're playing, like a Diabell Star or Snake Eye Ash, it just gets you full combo, which is incredible in and of itself. So yeah, all in all, it's great. Especially since we do not already have Bonfire. Now, if we did have Bonfire, this would be the card I would cut for Bonfire. Pretty easily. But obviously we don't. So previously I was playing Where Art Thou? And yeah, that card just wasn't as good as I would think it would. Because basically I still needed a normal summon. I needed to normal summon Droll, I needed to normal summon Effect Veiler, or what have you, and this just kind of gets your combo started without that normal summon, which is pretty nice, because then you can save your normal summon for a potential Ash, or a Poplar, or whatever it may be that you might have in your hand, or even like a Jet Synchron, which is pretty nice, that you might search off of an Ash. There you go. So yeah, all in all, pretty decent. As for the rest of this list, it's pretty standard, at least I would think so. So yeah, we're playing the 3 Snake Eye Ash, the 2 Poplar, the 3 Diabell Star, the Wicked Witch, or the Black Witch, yeah. 2 Flomberg, the 1 Oak, and the 1 Birch for our engine monsters, and then of course 1 Jet Synchron as a search target for Ash, as well as a summon target off of the original Sinful Spoils. We're also running, of course, 2 Sinful Spoils, the original Sinful Spoils. You could play 1, and then cut it down to a nice 40 cards. Honestly, that's probably what you should do. I am not lucky enough, I feel, that I, for the most part, need to be playing the second copy, because, yeah, Diabell Star tends to get impermed and stuff like that, so I just feel like I need it for the most part. And it's okay. But yeah, you could definitely play 1. We also then have 1 Divine Temple and 3 of the Wanted Seeker of the Sinful Spoils. And that's it for the engine, besides, of course, the 3 Lullaby. Oh, I guess technically 1-for-1 is also engine, because any monster pitching it goes into full combo with Snake Eye Ash or Poplar or whatever you may want to summon there. Even a Jet Synchron, which is very, very strong. As for the rest, it's all non-engine, which is really, really impactful. So we have the 2 Veiler, we have 3 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom. I'm playing 2 Nibiru. Honestly, this is probably the, like, second best hand trap that you can play right now, besides Shifter, I guess. Next to Maxi. It's like Maxi, and then Nibiru is right below it. Nibiru just happens to do really well into Snake Eye. Yeah, that's basically it. A lot of times they don't have an extender past the Nibiru, which makes it so that, or maybe not past the Nibiru, but a lot of people don't play around Nibiru nearly as effectively, and so because of that, you can drop the Nibiru, and they just kind of, like, fold to it. So there's that. So it's pretty impactful, but because we have Maxi, I am only playing the 2 of. We're also playing 2 triple attacks. We're also playing the 2 called by and the 1 crossout, and 3 imperm. Yeah, and that's basically it. As for the extra deck, most of this is pretty standard. I am playing Zelantis, which is more common in the TCG, because they have the Pyro Phoenix, which we don't have, but it's still fairly decent. I still find it pretty useful, just being able to, like, reset things and proc the Promethean Princess. But other than that, pretty much standard. So we're playing the 1 Formula, the 1 Borreload, the 1 Baron as our Synchros for the Jet Synchron stuff. We also have 1 Link Kariba, 1 Anima, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Hita, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 the Dark Charmer, 1 Sprite Elf. This card is not banned, which is kind of comedy. We have 1 Unicorn, 1 Promethean Princess, 1 Amblo Whale, 1 Apollosa, and then the 1 Zelantis. So that's it for the deck. Let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performed. Alright, so here we are going first with Lullaby of Obedience in hand, and you're going to be able to see exactly what this Lullaby is going to do. So I'm going to start by calling Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, to the which my opponent will just Ash that. I don't know why they decided to do this, but okay. I'm just going to keep the Called By in hand, because that's great. That immediately gets rid of an interaction from my opponent, so I can go for this original Sinful Spoil for free. Out comes the Ash. If you don't know this combo, Ash, grab Poplar, Poplar special summon itself, Poplar searches out the field spell, we activate the field spell, putting either Oak or Flomberg here. I put the Oak here in this case, and we go for the Link Karibo. Poplar is going to grab the Flomberg. This is why I went for the Oak, because we already had the Flomberg in rotation, so there you go. We go for the Oak for the Flomberg, and then link those off into Hita, and then we can activate the effect of the Flomberg to special summon back 2 of our Snake Eyes, when then the Oak brings back the Poplar. Now we can go for the Hita to bring back our Ash Blossom, and since I had a level 1, I was like, I'm gonna go for an effect veiler here. So we're gonna go for the Formula Synchron. Formula Synchron is gonna draw us a card, and we draw into Ash Blossom, which is very, very useful, as you will see later. So now we go for the Promethean Princess, link those off for the Amblo Whale after summoning back the Flomberg. We haven't activated the Flomberg effect, so now we're going to go for the Elf. Elf, bring back the Formula Synchron. We're going to send that to the grave for the Birch, and then put into the back row the Formula Synchron, link off those 2 remaining monsters for IP Masquerena, set 1, and pass. So technically, this doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually is quite a bit. We get to go, as soon as my opponent summons a monster, we get to go and special summon it out with the Divine Temple, the Flomberg, and then we have IP Masquerena to go into whatever we want. We have Elf to potentially bring back a Hita if they have a monster that they summon. But yeah, we get to go special summon the Flomberg, and then Flomberg can also special summon the Formula. Formula can then synchro off into a Baron there, so that's pretty good. Anyway, my opponent's going to start main phase 1 by normal summoning Fallen Valbaz, and immediately throws everything that I was originally saying out of the window. Well, okay. We're going to go for the Elf here and bring out the Hita here. Anyway, we're going to bring out the Flomberg. My opponent's going to use the IP Masquerena to go into the Mirror Jade, kind of expected. We're going to go for the Promethean Princess here. I don't want the Mirror Jade on field as much as I can help it, so I'm immediately going to get rid of that. I know that the Flomberg is going to get banished, so I just special summon out the Formula Synchron here, pop the 2 cards, and special summon out the Promethean Princess. My opponent is then going to go for the Mirror Jade effect, so during the end phase, my board is going to get wiped. Not really that big of a deal, but it kind of hurts. They're going to go for the Branded Fusion. I'm like, that's fine. They're going to go for the Fusion Deployment, because of course they have that as well. And yeah, activate the Branded Fusion, to the which I negate. And then my opponent is going to go and Fusion Summon into the Granganol, utilizing the Aluber, because of course they had Aluber as well on top of all of that. They're going to send Saronir off of the effect of the Granganol. Saronir is then going to send the Retribution. And they're also going to go for the Saronir, or not the Saronir, the other Albion the Shrouded Dragon, which sent Branded in White, which is basically Branded Fusion if Albaz is engraved, now I still have the Cold Eye, so that's pretty nice. So they're going to actually grab the Branded in white. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, I can just Cold by the Albaz, and then they can't do anything. Which is exactly what happens. They just go to the battle phase, walk over the Alpha, and I'm like, that's fine. I'm going to go for the Ambler Whale to pop the Granganol. I just don't want it on field. It's kind of annoying. Sure, you can go for the Alibur. It doesn't really matter. My field's going to get wiped anyway. Like, yeah, the Alibur actually being on field now is much better for me. They're going to go for the Quem, dumping another Albion, which is kind of strange. I get it. It does make a bit more sense to go for that instead of, like, the actual Fallen of Albaz, because it's been called by, but still kind of weird. Anyway, add back the Cartesia. This is basically all that they have. And I top deck Ash. Sometimes you're just better. To be fair, I still had access to the original Sinful Spoil engraved, which is why I said it doesn't really matter if my board is getting wiped. We still have plays. We still had access to Ash. But this does change quite a bit, because now that we just top decked it, we can go for the Poplar to grab up the original Sinful Spoil. My opponent's going to go for the Special Summon here. They go for the Coritis, and I'm like, okay, you put that in the wrong zone, dude. Oops. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Quem is then going to Special Summon out the Mirror Jade, and I'm like, no! Mirror Jade is not allowed to be on the field. And I know what you're thinking. Why are we going for the Promethean Princess on the Mirror Jade again? Isn't our board just going to get wiped? First of all, no, because it does have to be Fusion Summoned. If this Fusion Summoned card wasn't Fusion Summoned, it was brought back. So, not Fusion Summoned. But more importantly, I can't have this guy on the field that long. Because it can just banish, like, Ash, or whatever I summon off of Ash. So I just really don't want it around. So instead, we're going to get rid of it. Anyway, they do end up banishing the Ash, but that's fine, because we do get to put the Poplar into the back... Or, I put the Ash into the back row with the Poplar, and then we bring back the Flomberg. Flomberg is actually going to put into their back row the Albion that they just sent off of the Mirror Jade. So now I'm feeling pretty good. We're going to then go for the original Sinful Spoil to grab the Jet Synchron, and we're going to Special Summon Oak and the Birch. Here we are actually going to add back the Ash as well. Now, my opponent goes for the Coritis effect here, which does kind of hurt, but it's not really that big of a deal, because I was kind of already playing around it. So we're going to go for the Nightmare Phoenix just because I had to, and then we're going to go for the Oak effect here, summoning out the last Ash that we had in Grave, and then go for the Anima. I had to go for the Nightmare Phoenix into the Oak play there to get rid of the Promethean Princess, because I was locked into fires, and I really wanted to go for this Anima. So I'm going to go Anima Steel here, and then I link both of those off into Dark the Dark Charmer. Dark the Dark Charmer is going to grab their own Mirror Jade. Then we're going to go for the Synchron here, Special Summon it, proceed to the battle phase, walk over everything. I was low on time here as well, which is why I'm not necessarily making the best of plays, but I just make Baron here because, hey, they gave me an 8, and that's 10. 1 plus 1 plus 8 is 10, so I make Baron. Yeah. They go, activate the effect, dumping the Albaz, putting itself back, go for the Ecclesia, go for Nadir Servant, and I'm like, well, I know the card in your hand, so now you just can't do anything. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. So they grab the Maximus, I'm like, cool, they're going to draw a card, I'm like, cool, they're going to go for the Maximus, I'm like, cool. They're going to attempt to activate the effect of the Maximus, or sorry, I Special Summon my Ash here. Why didn't I Special Summon it on the effect of the Cartesia? Because I didn't, I just chose not to. I was like, do I care? I know, I knew Ash didn't have a Surge target, which is why I kind of didn't do anything. Anyway, we negate the Maximus and just pass. But yeah, they're pretty much dead here. I draw 1 for 1, which is funny. But we're going to Special Summon the Flomberg here. We're then going to activate the Dark Effect to bring back the Mirror Jade, to which my opponent will go for Super Poly. They just drew Super Poly. Sure. Too bad it doesn't do anything because they got rid of their, whatchamacallit, their, where is he? Oh, they banished him. The Garura. They could have potentially gotten rid of, like, a fire monster, I guess, but again, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to attempt to pop here with the Promethean, because it's engraved. Also, they negated and changed my monster's level to 1. And guess what? It's boosted by the field spell. That's right, it's Flomberg. He's now 4100, which is very, very funny. Anyway, Elf is going to bring back a monster, and the game is over. The game is over. Cool. I just had to go to battle there. They were on very low life points, and yeah. Good game. Weird game. Alright, so here we are actually going at second, and this isn't the greatest of hands for going second, but let's see what my opponent is on. What is this? That's right, it's Archfiend Labyrinth, or the Resonator Labyrinth. Anyway, they're going to add the Crimson Gaia to their hand, activate its effect in order to grab up ya boy. They add the Soul Resonator. Soul Resonator is going to be normal summoned, to the which I will negate this. Now, I know what you're saying. Why are we negating this? Because it searches the Labyrinth furnitures. So we're negating the furnitures there. Anyway, and I was pretty sure they didn't have anything there. Out comes this guy. They're going to go into Hot Red Dragon Archfiend and set 2 and pass. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. If those are 2 lab cards, this hand becomes a lot worse. And then, look, if I was playing poker, I'd be really good. I'd be really good with this hand. I'm going to start with Lullaby of Obedience, to the which my opponent will negate it. I think people just are scared of this card. Surprisingly, I think people just don't read this card. They just look at it, they go, my guy called Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I'm just not gonna read this and negate it. No. Stop. Which is kind of funny. To be fair, it was the correct play. Anyway, we're gonna go for the Diabellstar here. A special summon itself, activate its effect. To the which my opponent will then go for the Big Welcome, which is kind of interesting. I'm going to go for the original Sinful Spoil. They're going to pop up my Diabellstar, and I'm like, oh no! Anyway, now I get full combo. And this set card isn't anything. It's another Big Welcome. We're going to grab the Field Spell, activate the Field Spell, grab up the Fallenberg. We're going to go for the Link Karibo here. We're then going to go for the Birch, put it into the back row, then send it away for the Oak effect to grab up the Birch. Then we're going to go and send the Flomberg away to grab up the second Flomberg. Flomberg effect is going to grab the Oak and the Poplar, and then we're going to link those off into Nightmare Phoenix, because guess what? It can be co-linked! Yes. So, if you don't know, co-linking it allows you to draw a card after using its effect. So I'm going to deal with the back row, and yeah, it's the second Big Welcome. And I draw 1 for 1, which just kind of sucks here. I'm going to go for the Hita. This is a big mistake on my part. This does not need to be Hita, but I do make Hita. And it ends up costing me just a little bit. It's not that big of a deal, but it does cost me a little bit. And I'll explain that in a second. Anyway, we summon out another guy. We go for the Promethean. Sorry, I go for Elf here. We're going to go for the Elf effect. We're going to bring back the Hita. Then we're going to go for the Flomberg effect. I'm going to put that guy into the back row. And then go for a Promethean Princess co-linking. And then bring him back to the boy. And then go for the Amblo Whale. And then into the Zelantis. Here's the Zelantis play that I'm talking about. So we get to special summon the Lovely Labyrinth. We could also potentially special summon the monster into face down defense position, which is something to keep in mind. But notably what this does is we can then go for the Promethean Princess. Promethean Princess pop, and then out comes the Amblo. I shouldn't have activated the Amblo effect here, because it just pops a card. And since 3 of my monsters are co-linked, I could have popped 3 anyway during the battle phase with the secondary effect of Zelantis, which is during the battle phase, you destroy cards on the field up to the number of co-linked monsters on the field. So this includes your opponent's co-linked monsters, but for us, that's 1, 2, 3 monsters that are all co-linked. So there you go. I could have popped 3 cards. Oopsie poopsie. Now, another thing I should have done is just popped my own Promethean Princess. That would have been a good option. Puts it into the graveyard for follow-up so that I can pop the Phoenix. I don't do that. Oops. But this is where going into Hita would have been a little bit better. So had I gone Dark there, Dark, summon the monster, doesn't matter what monster, link that off into Promethean Princess, or whatever I ended up going into, Elf into Promethean Princess lines. All would have been the exact same had I gone for the Dark instead. But then, during my main phase 2, I could have linked off the Phoenix and the Promethean Princess, or even Zelantis and Promethean Princess. Whatever I wanted to link off, probably the Phoenix and the Promethean Princess. Could have linked those off into the Hita, which could have given me a fire with the Promethean Princess, which could have then, at the very least, popped a card the opponent controlled, while also still co-linking, which would have been pretty good. So, like, here I could have just, like, popped right with the Promethean Princess, which would have prevented them from getting the increase. But it doesn't really matter. My opponent's just going to twiddle their thumbs and then concede. So, you know, good game. Alright, so here I am going second with, it's 3 of a kind, basically, again. My opponent just passes with 2 set cards, and I'm like, oh, how very interesting. I draw Imperm, which is kind of funny. During the draw phase, I'm going to get Ashed. Oops. That's fine. That means 1 for 1 is online. We're fine. It's fine. So we're going to start with the Diabellstar, pitching the second Wanted, which will get promptly Impermed. And I will go, oh no. Nah, that's fine. We'll go for the 1 for 1 here. And my opponent goes for Crossout Designator. Huh? Calling 1 for 1, by the way. Wild. Okay. I guess I'm not doing anything. Poplar, put itself into the back row. I will attack for 5, or for 25. Keep that in mind. I have this guy. I'm attacking for 25 every turn. Okay. Main phase. Oh, pass. Pass. They're breaking. They're breaking. Let's go. I draw Crossout. Dang it. Okay, I'll just attack. 25. 25 to the dome. We're fine. I have better top decks, trust. And now that I have cross out, I probably do. My opponent sets a card to not die. I'm like, okay. Just kidding, you're dead. Just kidding, you're dead. Because I play Baron. My opponent goes for the Maxine. I'm like, that's fine. It doesn't matter. You're dead. I pop the card. It was Birch. Cool. Anyway, 3,000. Exact lethal. Comedy. That's what happens when you just draw non-engine. It's... yeah. Yeah! Alright, once more, we are going second, this time with Lullaby of Obedience. This should show you the case for Lullaby of Obedience, specifically going second. My opponent is doing the same thing that I do all of the time, which is, oh, I have the Quick Play spell, but I also have Triple Tack in my hand. I'm going to activate this during the main phase to get my opponent to interact with me so that I guarantee the Triple Tack. Right? So that if they do droll me, I get a triple tack them. I normally only do this with, like, weaker hands, or the hands, like, that can play through droll. So my opponent goes for the Sinful Spoils, and they're going to send it away, and I'm like, no, no, no. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And then they do the exact same play that I made in a previous game, which is shuffle back a card, draw a card, and then go for the triple tack to draw, and they see nothing. And I'm like, oh! Oh! And then I draw Called By, which just, like, seals the game. But I'm like, oh, cool! I just get to do whatever I want. So I grab Snake-Eye Ash off of the Lullaby. They add it to my hand. How kind of them. Very, very kind. It doesn't really matter. We're going to go for the Snake-Eye Ash. We're going to go for the Poplar. We're going to activate the effect of the Poplar. We're going to activate its effect. Grab the Field Spell. We're going to go for the Field Spell. Grab the Fallen Bird. We're going to link off into Link Karibo. We're going to go for the Poplar effect. Putting itself into the grave, or putting itself onto the field. Then go for the Diabellstar. Diabellstar setting the original Sinful Spoil. Now, I'm almost 1,000% certain that since I haven't already been hand-trapped, my opponent has Nibiru. Like, I guarantee it, okay? 1,000%, my opponent has 5 cards in hand, one of them is Nibiru, okay? So keep that in mind. We're gonna go for the Ash here, and I'm like, oh wait! That's not my Ash! Oh shit! Now, I do make a mistake. I go for the Flomberg here. I should have gone for Oak. My bad. My bad. I'm stupid. And it does end up costing me quite a bit. So anyway, I go for the Jet Synchron, to which my opponent will go for the Nibiru. I'm like, no, no, no. No, no, no. No Nibirus here. That's not allowed. I'm going to negate that. Okay? Then I'm almost... I know for a fact my opponent has Imperm. So, I go for Borreload Savage Dragon here. This is where the Borreload Savage Dragon comes into clutch. Right? Okay. So, that's negated. Great. Not that big of a deal. Right? That's fine. I can deal with that. That's totally fine. Right, I can deal with an Imperm. I know they have the Nibiru in hand. I'm going to pitch the last of the guys, go into the whatchamacallit, the Jet, and we're going to go into Hita. Hita, grab Oak, special summon back Jet Synchron, goat it. We're clean. We're clean. Just kidding! They have a second Imperm, and if it was anything else, we would have been fine! And I'm like, oh. Okay, that makes this significantly worse for me. I can still make this work. I'm going to put Flomberg into my back row. I'm gonna go to battle. I should have done that. I should have done this in the reverse order. I should have kept the Flomberg. It doesn't really matter. I was in case of evenly matched. What I should have done is I should have gone Flomberg in main phase 2. Put probably actually like Poplar into the back row. It's fine. Okay, go for the Promethean Princess. Bring back doesn't matter. We're just gonna link that off into Amblo, and we're gonna pass. We have something here, at the very least, okay? And my opponent realizes this, realizes that they've bricked, and concedes. What an interesting game! But there you go. That's what, like, Promethean Princess, or not Promethean, Lullaby does. And what you have to play around when you actually activate Lullaby, and you gotta remember that. Oops. Good game. Alright, we're back with the deck, and more so, we're back with Lullaby of Obedience. Honestly, this card was very, very good for me. I honestly saw this card quite a bit, and because of that, I ended up actually having the ability to play through more interruptions. I was able to see better hands and see more disruptions and kind of just like force my opponent into weirder situations, which was pretty nice for me. Yeah, that was basically it. This card performed surprisingly well. Now, I will say, this is not a card that you should be playing in almost any other build in the game right now. I get that people are like, oh, you just call whatever card and it's incredible, right? Like Cash Zero players used to play it, right? Don't do that. On the latter, the only reason I found so much success with this was because calling Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring did just about as much for me as calling Snake Eye Ash, right? So being able to actually call another card that actually gets you advantage is very nice. Sure, being able to call Maxi is nice and all, but like, they're just going to special summon it and then it's dead on your field and it doesn't do anything, right? Calling Ash Blossom means that any normal summon, even if it gets interrupted, gets you Hita into Promethean into Amblo, right? So at the very least, like, you have that you can do, right? Which made it a lot better and a lot more useful. And since we don't already have Bonfire, this card was a lot more useful to just give me that additional recursion and additional just stuff, right? Just anything that I needed. It was just that extra body, that extra field presence, that extra whatever it may be. Something to push through, similar to Bonfire, right? So because of that, it ended up being very useful. Would I play this in any other build? No. Would I play this in any other deck? No. Would I do this in like any other format? Almost? No. The reason this wasn't played in something like Tearlament is for similar reasons, right? This card is good to draw, not very good to mill. Right? If you're playing this in Tearlament, sure, you could call Rhino Heart and then add the Rhino Heart to your hand. That's great and all. But it also kind of doesn't do anything, because then if you send it to the graveyard via effect, like for example, off of your own Rhino Heart, that triggers their Rhino Heart. Right? So for a lot of situations like Tearlament, it wouldn't work in. In other Tier 0 formats, maybe you'd play it. Maybe it's not very good to special summon the card from your opponent's field. Or from their deck or something like that, right? Because putting a card into their graveyard can be kind of detrimental, right? Maybe you'd play it in like Zodiac? Maybe? But you get my point. It's not always going to be useful, and it's specifically useful in this situation because of the ability to call Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, a card that almost everyone is playing because of Maxi being around. Not everyone is playing it, but for the most part, everyone's playing it. So it's very nice to be able to do that and then still get something out of it, which is pretty cool. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. And if you did, a like is very much appreciated. If you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.